Hello everyone and welcome to another Transfer Rumours Show. My name is Stewart and down here in the transfer bunker with me, I've got Andy Heaton and Fuad Hasan. I call it the transfer bunker because you may well be able to hear some drilling. I think someone forgot to turn it off. But anyway, we're going to get on with transfers and it's a brand new season. We're all excited. We're all willing to see what the new names and the new places are going to take us to in this transfer deadline rumour. However, we seem to be going back in time because I'm about to start talking about Nabil Fakir. I probably should have done a trigger warning before that in case any of you are actually quite worried about that. But no, we are going to talk about Nabil Fakir once again. French magazine Le Progrès has intimated that Liverpool are indeed willing to go back in for Fekir if the price is significantly lower than the 50 million euros that was quoted last season. Now that doesn't surprise me. Obviously, there's been lots that's happened since last season, which means that that price that we were quoted for the deal that didn't quite happen was never really going to be there. But if you look at his numbers, Fuad, he's not had as good a season as he had the season before, but he's still a quality player. And if we can get him at a discount, is this going to be similar to the Shaqiri deal last year where if the numbers add up, it's kind of a no-lose situation?
I think so because I was having a look through Twitter and a French journalist was mentioning something around 30 million euros, which probably sounds about right. I don't know how much lower Lyon are willing to go. And I think, you look at him and he's obviously a player that the manager really wanted. And I think that's the most important thing to consider. Not really, that they've got medical staff that can assess all that and their opinions and judgment is a lot better than any of ours because, they're professionals in that sense. So if the manager wants him and he very clearly does, then it's a no-brainer because he's obviously convinced. He's obviously been convinced about joining Liverpool. I think he's probably spent this year, if we've seen a dip in his numbers, it's probably because he's really kind of gutted about the move last year and he just got on with it. And we've seen with other players, Naby Keita, Virgil van Dijk, when they're sold on Liverpool, on the manager, on the players, on the project, I guess, if you want to use that word, being built, then it's very hard to sway them away. And I think, other clubs, there's probably a reason why we haven't really heard that many links with other clubs, any concrete links as such, because I really do think there's been something there. And I don't want to sound like I predicted this or anything, but I had a small feeling that we might see something come out the next year.
You can tell the world that you predicted it.
I was right all along, but I
got
never
the budding ITK over here, by the way. Now, obviously, I mentioned his goals is a different number to last season, but the amount of games he played, Andy, was similar, and that's something a lot of Liverpool fans were looking out for, to see. Obviously, injury was something that was quite high up on the agenda last summer. He hasn't had any big injuries, had a couple of niggles this summer. So he's potentially proven his fitness to a certain degree. You mentioned to me off camera before that he has recently just changed agents. So the likelihood of him moving this summer somewhere is heightened, increasing. What are your thoughts on it?
Is this the part of the year when everyone on Twitter becomes a qualified doctor?
I hope not. I really hope not.
Look, I'm a little bit sceptical, which is unfortunate because, I want the world to see the tattoo that Rob Gutman got done last year, which he's currently, still keeping hidden. Look, from what you understand, from what the club said last year, what was intimated, there was an underlying issue, like something that they thought might go, and that risk, just because it hasn't gone, doesn't mean the problem. Just because it hasn't gone so far doesn't mean it won't reoccur or occur. And it was big enough for them to pull out. I always find that with transfer rumours, I always look at where it's come from and but go back from there, kind of like, so where and why. So I'm a little bit sceptical in so much as that this has come from France. How would a paper in France, Le Progrès or whatever, know that Liverpool would interested if the fee come down? Surely that would be from our end if it was genuine. And then you got to ask, well, why? And for me, Ola has already said the Lyon president, the Fakir will go. Well, what better than to use Liverpool as a starting pistol to get his name back in the papers, saying, oh, well, he's available at this price, but if you don't, he'll end up going to Liverpool for X. Then, so if any, you say it's been quiet, so maybe it's just a case of trying to flush potential suitors out. I don't know. I don't really know enough about him to know whether. What I'd say is I think Liverpool have moved on in the last 12 months. I think the squad's got more depth. I think when we were linked with him last year, everyone was just going, oh yeah, he'll go straight into the team one way or the other. And now you kind of like, look, don't get me wrong, if the manager is still keen, and as we see with Shaqiri, there's a deal to be done, then maybe they will. But I just don't see this as anything other than Leon or whoever his new agent is playing games. I mean, as you said yourself, we were trying to find out who his new agent is.
We don't know that yet.
We don't know that yet. I mean, he might need. I mean, what's interesting is that this could be agents outside of the player working on deals. This doesn't really get spoken about a lot. So what happens with deals sometimes is it's not the player's agent who does the deal. I ran to I mean, I know it's like Willie Mackay who was in the news last year because of what happened with
Salah.
With Salah, yeah. Basically, a lot of agents make the money without actually having any players. What they'll do is they'll go to a club and go, right, I reckon I can get you X I can get you X amount for a player that you've got, and they'll get an understanding with the club, and then they'll hawk that player around Europe without actually representing them, so to speak.
Wow. And then they'll go to the player
This
and go,
happens a
look.
hell of a lot, and then they'll go to the player and go, right, I've got you this move, great, yes, brilliant, and then they take their commission and everyone. And that's where you get a lot of these transfer rumours from.
That's madness.
Because it's in these agents' interest to get the name out. Yeah, and it's far more murkier than you appreciate. I think when John Henry first came to Liverpool, he said, I thought I'd seen a lot, but the transfer market, it's something about cowboys or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, you could very well, it's entirely possible there are 3 or 4 agents working on a deal for Nabil Fakir who neither represents a club or the player.
So, unfortunately, you're probably going to be hearing more about it, but there's nothing concrete as yet. But there's so many interesting wrinkles in this story, Fuad. One of them that I really enjoyed was the idea of the friendly between Liverpool and Lyon in Geneva. Somehow the gate receipts are going to act as a discount that are going to come off the price, which is just wild. I would so love that to happen just for the simple craziness of it. But something else that was mentioned by Rich Allen from Get France Football, a website, is the idea that it might not necessarily be Fekir at Lyon that we're looking at. I mean, there are other players, talented players within our squad, who he believes will outstrip Fekir in terms of talent. One that instantly springs to mind is Hasan, someone else who's been linked with us over time. Is it possible that maybe we're not actually looking at Fekir and we're already going on to the newer, potentially better model?
Possibly. I think we have seen Liverpool kind of throw smoke screens in terms of transfers, and I think long may it continue because it's obviously worked as a strategy. Everything's quite tight-knit, kept kind of under wraps. But the one thing, I've not watched much of Fekir in terms of 90 minutes, and I'm watching full games of him, but the one thing I would say is I saw him, I think, against City earlier on this season, and in that game, he really did cause them quite a few problems. I thought he was very... They were wary of him, basically, that they understood the threat, and I think his flexibility, I think Andy mentioned that we might be a bit beyond that. I'm not sure, I think he's going to be one of those players that has fit in with other players we've seen Klopp bring in, like Gini Wijnaldum, where he comes in and does something completely different to what we initially think he's come in for, and I think he does have that flexibility that, I mean, I've not scouted the whole of Europe and players across the leagues, but
You
sorry,
knew you were coming on the show, right?
Yeah, this is the last time, sorry. But I think he's probably one of the most flexible that I've seen in terms of clubs around Europe, and I don't think you can kind of ignore that. And I think Klopp would see that as well, first of all, it's a real kind of opportunity, a real kind of selling point, I guess, because there's more than one position for him to kind of advertise. More than one position for him to come in and fight for, and that kind of makes it a little bit easier maybe to get into the team and in different roles. But I don't think if we do sign him, I don't think it's sort of like that's the end of that on the debate about that forward position. I think there's still 1 or 2 things to be done.
Just on Fakir as well. I mean, you mentioned at the top of the show there about he's played X amount of games this year. Another thing you might want to factor in, and it might just be something maybe bespoke to Liverpool when they do, because different teams have different standards of medicals. I mean, obviously you've got to meet a threshold for insurance, one thing and the other. But if you factored in, it might be consideration how Liverpool play, the intensity in which Liverpool play.
Right. And
compared to
Lyon.
I mean, I'm not saying why, I'm just trying to surmise what
No, I like this. It's almost like I've got the angel and devil on my shoulder here.
No, but do you know what I mean?
No, yeah, I do know what you mean. Yeah, it's true.
Our players
It's true. We do.
through a hell of a lot. You know, and maybe.
So yeah, the threshold for someone else.
That might have been a factor. You know what I mean? It's not like he just playing for Everton where it just gets binged up and long ball, scrap for it at the top. You know what I mean? There's expectations on you as a Liverpool player. You've actually not only be actually good at football, but work your proverbials off.
The idea of him playing for Everton, come on now.
No, but,
I know. Even the hypothetical,
Yeah.
that's crazy. Okay, it's time to put everyone's Mo's where their mouth is. Andy, I'll start with you. How many are you giving him out of 5?
Out of 5, 1.
That was a reluctant one by the sounds of it as well, wasn't it? Right, Fuad, come to you.
2.7.
Well, we're only doing the most scale once in this week's show, so we're going to make the absolute most of it. So thank you for that, Fuad.
If we were doing fractions and decimals, 0.0.
Sam's been getting bored. He needs more things to do.
Yeah, clearly he's getting bored.
Half a mo.
Personally, I'm kind of on the fence with this one. I don't know whether it's because I've seen so much of him play that I want to believe it, but you are right, Andy. The idea of us going out there, getting this guy, having all of the weight of expectation on him, and then he can't do what we want him to do, I think that might end up being a factor. So I'm just going to split the difference of these two and say 2 Mo's. Now, as I just said, that's the only time we're going to be doing the Mo scale on this show, because for the rest of the show, we're going to be doing a more hypothetical look at the transfer market, and we're going to be spreading our net for a little bit wider and talk about some other clubs, basically. One man who has been in the news a lot in the last 24 hours, Antoine Griezmann, has finally decided the error of his ways and realised that he should have gone to Barcelona all along. And we didn't have to get any cringy videos to find out. So well done, Antoine, on that one. Gil Marin, the chief of Atletico, has actually announced it himself rather than the player. But it looks like Barcelona agreed to pay his release clause, and the worst kept secret in football is going to be happening. He's going to be moving there. Now, it's interesting to consider the way the Barcelona play, the way Atletico play, and how the two of them would fit. But from a more Liverpool's perspective, I'm interested in the idea of the domino effect here, because there's been a lot of rumours that Coutinho is not long for Barcelona. PSG looks like his most likely destination. Obviously, that may well shift someone out of there. Again, you hear a lot of rumours around Julian Draxler. Now, one of the clubs who have been interested in Julian Draxler in the past is Lyon, which brings us nicely back round to where we were 5 minutes ago. So, Andy, I'm going to start with you on this one. Do you think this is the kind of deal that can set that kind of train in motion?
Bloody hell. I mean, hypothetically, yeah, I mean, there always does seem to be one deal every summer that sets the wheels in motion. Last season, it was the goalkeepers, Courtois, Alisson. Was Alisson going to go to Real Madrid? No, because he went to Liverpool. Then Courtois then goes to Real Madrid, and then Kepa ends up at Chelsea. The Coutinho thing's fascinating, isn't it? I mean, the Griezmann one's mad, because I just hope that Barcelona have got an idea of what they're going to do with him. I mean, because it's not like they went and spent 180 million on a player last year with no idea where to put him and what his strengths are. But who knows? Yeah, I mean, he's not. The other thing about Griezmann, we were talking off camera, he's 28.
He's old. I don't know what he was hanging around for.
He's like just this kid. Is it because he's little? Because he looks quite boyish? I don't know. So it looks like he's going to go to Barca. What the idea is to get him in, I don't know. I mean, you talk about Barca, Coutinho's not the only potential exit. I mean, there was talk about Suarez, which could also set off another domino effect, an even bigger one, really. I mean, because we're with ego, but Coutinho goes to PSG. It's a funny because they're going to PSG are losing Rabiot as well.
Yes, they are.
You've got Draxler there as well. There's talk of Neymar getting out, being forced out rather by Kylian Mbappe. It wouldn't surprise me to see at least one of PSG's players end up at Old Trafford, unfortunately. Rabiot being one of them, because they just need so much.
Yeah.
And also, they're willing to, so again, you look at it objectively, what does a team need? Can they afford it? And unfortunately for us, Manchester United, as much as we laugh at where they are at the current situation, they're one of the 5-6 clubs in Europe
They can do that.
who
Yeah.
can pay somewhat. I mean, they're paying Alexis Sanchez, what, 350 a week? Which is mad. You know what I mean? So if they can get him off the wage bill as well.
Yeah.
And also, you look at United, they've always looked for the glamour side of things. Even if a signing doesn't make sense, I mean, there's every chance they can go and spend God knows how much on one of PSG's players, maybe even Draxler or Rabiot or whatever. Pay them 250, 300 grand a week, and again, like Barcelona, have no idea what to do.
You think these big money organisations would have had a bit more forward planning involved in some of this, though, wouldn't
I
they?
think what Liverpool have done very well, and it's wiped my eye because I've always been very sceptical of and I hate to use the word transfer committee, but effectively that's what Liverpool have got. I think too many people can get involved, too many cooks. I also think sometimes there are concerns taken into consideration that shouldn't, like commercial stuff, how it looks, you know, reputational signings, whatever. And I think what Liverpool have done fantastically well, despite what I've said previously, so sorry, they've been very, very targeted in their needs and wants. So, in so much as that if they signed a player who had a great commercial profile, you wouldn't think that'd be factored in, but it'd be used as an additional bonus.
It's
You
not.
know,
It's
they're
not
not
as
going to not
important.
sign someone. You know, it's almost like the Moneyball thing.
Yeah.
Whereas you think with the clubs like United, maybe even Man City, not so much Man City, but City will need. You look at Fernandinho's a year older. They've lost the captain, centre half. They might be sniffing out. I don't know. I think you're right in so much as Coutinho. I've gone off a tangent a bit there, but I think Coutinho's going to kick a lot off.
Yeah.
And it could see ins and outs. The ripple effect could be massive, even in the UK.
Now, obviously, we know that Neymar and Coutinho are very good friends, so that's one thing.
So they're both going to Real Madrid.
Well, not sure.
They've already spent about 300 million.
I'm not sure he could do that move. Not from one straight to the other. I don't think he wants a pig
On loan
set.
from PSG after a month.
He's hated enough, isn't he, at Barcelona?
He doesn't want any pig set thrown at him. No chance.
Oh, you never know. He might turn tech, do the field.
Okay, we'll park that one for now. One thing I was going to say, though, is the potential idea of Neymar maybe moving to Barcelona instead. Because obviously, like I say, they are friends, so maybe rather than Philip leaving, he'll try to persuade him to come, which means that there'll have to be someone else who leaves Barcelona. And who might that be? Maybe Ousmane Dembélé. How would that suit us, do you think?
He's one that's been linked for a while, isn't he? And you know, at Dortmund, he was closely watched, I guess, by Liverpool, and Klopp knows him well, I guess. But I think the one thing with Barcelona is, and this kind of this leaves a lot of uncertainty in terms of where players going to go, who's coming in, and the long-term planning is the manager. We don't really know what his position is. He's, you know, a lot of people were convinced that this would be his last season, especially after the Champions League debacle, I guess, that's massive, because I think, you know, you sign someone like Coutinho, there needs to be an element of letting them bed in, number one, and then also a long-term kind of plan as to where he's seen in the team and how he plays. And Barcelona have traditionally done that over the last few years, but you know, we've seen them turn into similar to Real Madrid now, that kind of Galactico type spending, and bringing in players like Andy was saying without, you know, just throwing a lot of cash and not really planning on how they form a team around them. And I think that's massive, because Dembélé, you look at Dembélé in terms of profile, he's someone you definitely want to keep at your club, no matter how he's really performing at the moment, because he's young, he's got the raw ingredients. Enough clubs have been interested, scouted. There's been enough top managers who really see him as a top quality player.
Any new man coming in would surely want to work with him.
Exactly.
Can I throw a mad one in while we're talking about Barcelona?
You can always throw a mad one in.
Sorry, no, it's just we were talking about Coutinho earlier in the show, and just then about where they assumed he would fit in, and like the assumption was he'd fit where Iniesta used to play, basically in the midfield.
That was their initial plan, or what we thought anyway.
So, we talked about Man United as well. Assume that Barcelona can raise funds, and they have got players who could raise a lot of money, and considering he's unsettled at Man United, captain of France. It would make more sense.
It would make more sense.
It would make more sense.
Real Madrid are the ones who seem to have taken the lead in terms of getting him, But you're right, that would make sense. However, based on what we've said so far...
Barca need a midfield more than Real Madrid, is what I'm saying.
No, it's true. Based on what we've said so far today, making sense is not necessarily high priority in a lot of European clubs. Now, we were going to go on and do a full section about what the fixtures have come out today, as you may well know, what that means for Liverpool in terms of, are we going to need to get someone in earlier to kind of foster against a tough start with the two big tournaments happening in the summer. But to be honest, we've spent a long time talking about the minutiae of Barcelona and Coutinho and Neymar. And to be honest, I want to say something for the next show. So that's all you're getting today. Thanks very much to Andy. Thank you for Fuad. We'll see you again.